I'm going to hit record now and formally welcome you to our session on pandemic holiday compassion. I am just going to turn my video on for a few minutes so that you can see who it is who's speaking with you today. Well, I will try to. And maybe Francis, if you'd like to do the same, feel welcome to. There it is. Hi, everyone. And no pressure, and of course you're welcome to throughout the session to please jump on the microphone, share video, whatever you're comfortable with. It's really up to you how much you'd like to participate. And there's Francis waving. So before we go any further, we did have a moment to acknowledge where we're all joining from today, and I'd like to just acknowledge the absolutely gorgeous lands of the Kwasamsam and Lekwungen families on which Royal Road sits. So although I don't think any of us are on campus today, that is the land that ties us all together. And I am joining just about 10-15 minutes away on the ancestral family lands of the Chana families in Michosen. So welcome, and encourage you all to just take a moment to acknowledge where it is you're joining from today, and show some gratitude for the many beautiful places that we all get to call home. So we are going to have a little check-in this morning. As usual with our workshops, we like to begin and end with a short grounding exercise. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the psychological impacts that we're experiencing because of the COVID-19 pandemic and how that is interacting with our holiday plans and expectations. And then we've prepared some tips on how to prepare ourselves for the holidays during a pandemic. So the focus is really on how to care for ourselves and care for others in this very strange time. And this is new for us as well. So I just want to acknowledge that this is going to be, informal. Please jump in with your own thoughts. We are not experts on this because we too are going through, pandemic holiday for the first time in our lives as well. So looking forward to hearing your thoughts throughout our discussion today. And then we will end with another grounding exercise and a quick checkout. So let's just take a moment and check in. And, however you are joining us today is absolutely perfect. So you'll see on the screen here is some funny little emoji faces. And if you're comfortable, to click on the little pencil symbol on the top left of your screen and just circle, whatever whatever little emoji might resonate with you in this moment. Again, no right or wrong. Just a moment to check in with ourselves. A couple people feeling a bit quiet today. Frustrated, yeah. Tired, sad. Okay. And yeah, thank you. And I think that this is it's been a tiring year and a lot of uncertainty, a lot of stress. And so I think that's not a surprise to see that many of us are feeling a little tired, frustrated, quiet, maybe a bit withdrawn. And, given that maybe slightly lower energy, I just want to acknowledge how wonderful it is that you carved out the time to be here today. And that I hope that we will talk about some strategies that may help us to manage some of that energy. Second part to this check-in is on a scale of 1 to 10, how much stress are you feeling today? In this moment, 1 being cool as a cucumber and 5 being super stressed to the max, whereabouts are you? And again, feel welcome to share the number on the screen. You can use the little pencil, you can pop it in the chat box. Okay, so we've got a couple 4s, a few 3s. 1, 5, okay. Thank you. Someone at a 2, great. Yeah, so a lot of us in that kind of mid to high range, which is probably why you've, opted to join today, right? To have a look at how we can manage some of this stress. So our intention today is that we hope you will take away some strategies to help manage, when you're getting to 3, 4, 5 on the scale of stress, and perhaps even help you bump down a half point or a point today through our time together. So thanks so much for your openness to sharing where you're at, and really appreciate that you're here and looking for some strategies for how to make yourselves feel a little bit better and to move forward in effective ways as we enter the holiday season. Just one more note, if you are feeling more like 4 to 5, and this is a good check-in you can do even on a daily basis, every morning, a couple times a day, that we often really encourage people to connect with supports if they're feeling close to that 4 to 5 range, because that's a lot of stress you're carrying. So reminder that we are here for individual counseling support for all students. Some of you might have some other resources in your own lives and your communities that you might like to connect to, but that just quick check-in can be helpful to know if it's time to reach out for some external support. So before we launch into our content and our conversation today, I'd just like to invite everyone to really ground themselves to the space they're in. And start by taking a couple deep belly breaths. So big inhale through your nose, feeling your lower belly extend as it fills with air, that lower diaphragm, and hold for a second or two, and exhale through your mouth. Let's do one more of those. Feel yourself sinking into your chair or your bed, or maybe you're standing. Feel your weight ground into your feet. Right, and on this inhale, we're just going to incorporate a little bit of movement. And some of you might be familiar with the motion from the sun salutation movement in yoga. And so as we inhale through our nose, we're going to raise our hands up, try and back up so you can see me in the video if that helps. And pause here for a second. And as we exhale through our mouths, bring our hands to heart center. And let's do 2 or 3 more of those together. So inhale. You can close your eyes if you like. Pause at the top and exhale. Bringing your hands to your chest, to heart center. 2 more. Okay, let's just do one more big, beautiful breath. Okay, well, thank you. And just reminding yourselves this time is devoted to you, and showing some gratitude that we have the space together. So thank you for participating in that. And I hope that might just help even bring you down that 0.5 on that scale of 1 to 5 and feel really grounded and welcome in this space today. So I'm going to pass things over to Frances, and she's going to do a bit of a poll and start us off with some of our content today.
Thanks, Sarah. That was relaxing already. I think the dial is being pushed back by 0.5 for me already. Hope everyone too.
Are you there, Frances?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Anything? Oh, no. Hello, hello. Okay.
Oh, everybody else can hear her. It's just me. Okay, I'll play around and hopefully I can figure out what's going on. Thanks, everyone.
That's weird. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep going. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in. I was starting to have I lost my 0.5 micro movement towards calm there. Okay, let's do a poll. What do you think is going to be most hard for you as we enter into this holiday season this year? Is it not going to be able to see your friends and family, or uncertainty of COVID restrictions for all of us? No holiday home or visit to back to where we come from. No travel. No Mexico this year. Is it D, worried about your health and the health of others? E, unable to participate in holiday traditions? Or other, what's going on for you? If you want to take the pencil and fill in the form, or if you feel safe enough to do so, you can also let us know in the chat box if there's anything that's coming up for you as being particularly difficult this year. Yeah, not being able to see family and friends. This is going to be quite common, I think, for our students. Yeah, and the COVID restrictions. Definitely worried about my health and friends and family that live in different countries. Their health is, yeah, with numbers skyrocketing in certain places. Yeah, this year is looking a little bit different, isn't it? A little bit more stressful. Thank you for sharing, everybody. So there's uncertainty, and it equals grief and stress. We have grief when we feel loss. And we're anticipating that right now. We're feeling it before the holidays. And we're starting to see how that's activating our bodies and our minds. And this loss of safety and security over the whole year because of COVID has led many of us, to be really in an active state. And this is happening on a small micro level and a macro level. Sometimes when it's happening on a macro level, that even makes us focus more on some of the smaller details of our lives and worry a little bit more about it. And of course, if we can't plan, we start to not to be able to see black and white decisions, or decisions that would have been easy before suddenly are making us feel kind of weary and tired. So this is what we're all kind of experiencing right now together. And it's kind of a happy, healthy thing to know that we're all in it together. But it also, we know that our friends and family are also stressed by the same thing. So it's making it challenging even to share and connect. When we used to use other people's connection and resilience as a way of supporting ourselves through stressful times, we're all a bit weary this year. So some of the psychological impacts of long-term stress, when our brains go into that fight, flight, freeze, there's even a fawn mode, we are activated, we're feeling flooded, and if we are in that state for too long, we start to lose our focus, and it's hard to concentrate. That's when we hear very often in the counseling office with students who really depend on that focus. We feel tired, unmotivated, and it leads to burnout symptoms, feeling kind of apathetic and not engaged anymore in our work and in our studies. And it makes it really hard, actually, when we are in a flooded state, when we are very activated and stressed out, to make decisions and to process information in the way that we've learned to do with all of our faculties. We actually don't have all of our faculties when we're in a flooded state. And so it's hard to, like I said, to focus, but to retain information. So you have the information, and then you kind of have a gerbil brain for a little while, a goldfish sort of memory, and then it makes it difficult for you to go back and make the right choice. You distrust yourself for a little bit. And of course, when we feel stressed for too long, we feel tired. And feeling tired, I don't know about you, but one of the first things to go with me if I'm extra tired is my manners, and I get a little bit more irritable and a little more reactionary at times. So this frustration, even with my own behavior, but also with others, kind of comes out, a little green monster in me, if I'm feeling tired or too stressed for too long. And then it puts us in a negative headspace, and we have a little less hope, and we become a little more despondent. And this despondency, despair can lead to like a cycle of not being interested in planning for the future. So we don't have things to look forward to. It becomes kind of a negative cycle for us. So holiday expectations versus holiday realities, especially this year. What does this mean for us? I know a lot of you, we all have a lot of pressure at this time of year because there's a lot of archetypes and family time and things that make us hope and believe that we're going to have this awesome time, but often it doesn't quite measure up to how it's portrayed in the movies, or down the block at our friend's house, or there's different things that can take place. Lots of family time or time with people that changes what we want things to look like at times. So how do we balance that and really make room for that compassionate reality? It's easy to think about everybody gathering around in coordinating, holiday sweaters and just enjoying each other's company, but sometimes that's not the case. So how do we get comfortable and adopt a nice reality that's fitting and not stressful for us? So I think, I don't know if Sarah can hear me at all.
I can, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Frances. That was really good timing in some ways.
In the chat box there. So Sarah's going to let us know some tips to help us through.
Great. Thanks, Frances. Yeah, sorry for the technical glitch there. Yeah, and just acknowledging too, I think that for some people, the holidays are just not a happy time. There may be some sadness, some grief. So, wherever you're coming from in terms of launching into the holiday season, just acknowledging that it's not an easy time for everyone. And then we throw in this pandemic and things get a little more complicated. So how can we prepare for this? So one of the first things that we always want to remind students is to hold space for self-compassion. So this year especially, we really want to encourage you to carve out the space that you need to identify and acknowledge the emotions you're feeling. And so that sometimes involves a little bit of that name it to tame it approach, that we are carrying a lot of pressures and expectations and emotions, and by saying them out loud, by writing about them, by giving them some space to just feel them, that can be really good to just externalize and have a bit of a release, and to give ourselves that self-compassion. We tend to be pretty hard on ourselves and more compassionate with others. So a reminder to be really gentle and kind to yourself this year, this holiday season, and to accept compassion from others. I think using our communities of support, thinking about who are those people who we know can hold space for us when we need it, who help us to feel heard, to feel valued, and really use those people this year if you're having a hard time. We also want to, just like we did with that little poll, and I'm sorry I missed the responses, I got bumped out, but giving some space to acknowledge what we might be really missing this year. What have we lost? What are we grieving for that the pandemic has taken away from us, or maybe other things that we've lost unrelated to the pandemic? So again, just giving some space to that, and ensuring that we're practicing self-care. So if we think about what Frances just, beautifully described in terms of how long we've been in this stage of uncertainty, and the constant changes to restrictions, the decisions we're making every day to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe, it's a lot. It's a lot of weight, a lot of stress, a lot of uncertainty. And so really important time to be providing yourself with some self-care. And that may be setting boundaries, which we're going to talk about in a moment. That might be exercise. That might be, some really lovely tea, a glass of wine, connecting with certain people, giving yourself time to read, whatever it is that's going to help to nourish you during this kind of stressful time, is extra important, so that we can really be doing what we can to ground ourselves and stay in that prefrontal cortex that we saw in that image a couple slides ago, versus the amygdala, the fight or flight response, which is a very tiring place to be in for a long time. So that's first tip. Please jump in at any time. If you have a question or a thought to add, pop it in the chat box, jump on the microphone, and Francis too. We definitely want to hear from you. And so our next tip, I think it links to that first one, the self-care, the self-compassion piece, is acceptance. And so I was just reflecting on this right before the session, actually, and thinking about how there's kind of the cognitive acceptance, which I think this image is a great example of, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. And then there's also just the emotional acceptance of that, feeling those, whatever it is that's going on for us right now, and accepting that we might be a bit disappointed this year that we can't see the people we love. We might be feeling a bit discouraged or frustrated with people who aren't following COVID protocols that we feel are really important to follow. And so accepting and noticing what emotions are coming up for you, I think, is one piece of this. And then the more cognitive, functional, logistical pieces of acceptance that this image displays. So this is what we call a circle of control exercise. And you'll see in the circle in the center is what a list of things that we might consider are in our control. And what's outside of that circle are things that are out of our control. So we might notice that we're spending a lot of time thinking about, how is my aunt going to respond to me telling her I'm not going to come to her holiday gathering? What's the public health office going to say next week about the restrictions? Is this lockdown going to continue? And of course, again, this is all a lot of uncertainty we're dealing with. And we may notice we're spending a lot of time worrying and thinking about it. And that's okay, give that some thought. But if it's taking up a lot of our time and energy and mental space and creating more stress in our lives, we may want to do this circle of control exercise. So what you would do is just grab a piece of paper, or if you prefer digital, and draw a circle in the middle of it and start to write down all those worries, and notice if there's something within your control or if they're outside of your control. So you'll notice what I've listed here is, other people's behavior and expectations. As much as we sometimes want to be able to control other people, at the end of the day, we just can't, right? We can express our own feelings. We're in control of our own behavior, but we aren't going to necessarily be able to change other people's. So acknowledging and remembering that can be really helpful. COVID restrictions, protocols, the weather, these things we don't have a whole lot of control over. So as we enter this holiday season, some of the things that I identified that are within my control are finding fun things to do at home. How I communicate with the people I care about in my life. How do I show people I care about them? Starting some new holiday traditions with my kids. Maybe this is a window to try something new. Doing things a little more close to home, a little more close-knit. My expectations and boundaries. So starting to think about, what it is that's important to me this holiday season, and what boundaries do I need to maintain to keep myself comfortable, my family, and to clarify with others. And then limiting news and social media. This is one we've been talking about all year long. And it can be easy to get caught in that cycle of wanting the latest news and the updates on numbers, and just being aware of, how much time are we spending on that, and what's the psychological, the emotional impact that we're noticing after we check the news. Is there a way we might want to limit that to once or twice a day, or just monitor it a little bit more carefully? So while we're on this slide, I'd invite you if there's anything that you can think of that's within your control that you are going to focus on this holiday season, I'd love to hear, what it is. So if you want to pop it in the chat box or click on the little T in the top left, and type something that you're going to put some energy into. So Amber, taking care of ourselves, self-care, yeah, absolutely. That's probably the number one most important thing within our control, to look after ourselves. And Francis says not eating all the cookies. Yeah, so thinking about how we're nourishing our body, great one. Anyone else? And we're connecting virtually with family for sure. So finding ways that we can connect with our family that aren't in our normal realm for the holidays, but can be really fun and staying connected. Yeah, I see someone put exercise. Yeah, for sure. Oh, for our physical and mental health, keeping up with exercise, fresh air too, really important, and has such benefits to how we see the world and how we're feeling. Yes, Denise says spending out time outdoors with layers. Yes, absolutely. That fresh air, the seeing other people, even to just say hello, huge mental benefits. And vitamin D, yes, Francis, absolutely. Taking care of the plants, yeah, for sure. Caring for something else, some greenery, something that's giving us oxygen and joy. I think that's a beautiful example. These are great. Thank you. Um, And again, I encourage you, if this exercise resonates with you, now and then, just take a few minutes to do it. It can really help to refocus on what's within our control and how we want to spend our energy and our time. Cherishing life in general. Yes, Juan Carlos. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about gratitude in a few minutes, but I love that's such an important piece of this. Thank you. All right. Oops. Sorry. I think someone was just starting to write something about be gentle. Sorry, I cut you off by changing the slide, but please, if you want to keep typing or put it in the chat box, feel welcome to. So we'll start to just shift gears a little bit, and we do have a few slides on this topic. It's a little bit, I think, more complex, involving other people. So setting clear expectations and maintaining healthy boundaries. So if you are anything like me, this is an ongoing challenge, and probably going to be part of our lives forever. And this year again, the pandemic has created another layer to how we're managing expectations for the holidays. So I think one of the most important things is to do a little reflection to clarify, what it is we need and want this holiday season, before we even engage in conversations around what it's going to look like and how we're going to connect and meet the needs of others. I certainly find occasionally, usually my parents, who are wonderful people, might suggest something, and I notice a little bit of a triggered response in my body, like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. And it takes me a few minutes to think about, why did I not engage and like the suggestion immediately? And so in order to avoid those situations where you're kind of, a request is made and you're not quite sure if it fits for you or not, being clear about what you want first and what you need this holiday, I think is a really good place to start. And then once you do have a sense of what you're comfortable with in terms of COVID restrictions, what you need for self-care, what you need for connection, being really clear, specific, and consistent in your own messaging, and avoiding assumptions, because sometimes it can be easy for us to start to think that other people want the same or should want the same as what we want, which is, of course, not always the case. When we are managing the expectations of others, I think it can be really helpful if someone's perhaps behaving a bit, like showing some signs of frustration or a bit of aggravation, conflict, sometimes just taking a deep breath and thinking about, what is the emotion behind that behavior? So often it is something like fear or some loneliness. So if someone is making a request to you or you're discussing holiday plans, and you notice that the other person is a bit triggered, think about where is their request coming from? Are they feeling really sad or really angry because they're really lonely, or they're scared because there's so much uncertainty, or they're scared about risking the health of family members? So just taking those moments to pause, and just like we're trying to be, compassionate with ourselves, identifying and acknowledging the emotions we're feeling, giving space for others to feel that too, and to really think about what might be behind the behavior before we react to it. Another helpful reminder that I certainly find in my life is that if I am a bit triggered or a bit frustrated by someone's behavior, or feeling sad or let down by someone, to think about impact versus intention. So the impact is real, right? My emotions are real, but that person's behavior might not have had the intention of hurting me or making me frustrated. So again, that kind of deep breath, stepping back, thinking about, what's going on, what is this person's intention, where is their behavior or their request coming from, before we engage. And that is, I know, very easy to say and very hard to do sometimes when we're in the moment in these conversations. But amazing how sometimes just a brief pause, maybe you even want to say, oh, can I call you back in a few minutes? Allowing yourself to kind of regroup, breathe, and identify some of these emotions, both in yourself and for others. And just that be curious, not furious approach, right? So if you're feeling triggered, a little unsettled by something, approach with curiosity. Any thoughts or comments on this? Questions? All right. Well, I hope everyone's still with me. So I wanted to share a model that has been incredibly, oh, thanks, Juan Carlos, you're still with me. Good. The SBI feedback model, it's something that I discovered from the Center for Creative Leadership several years ago, and I use it all the time. And, I'm a counselor and I'm in the world of emotions and having difficult conversations every day. But this model, I often come back to when I know I'm about to engage in a difficult conversation, if I'm about to give some feedback to someone, or even if I'm just noticing something concerning and I want to check it out with someone. And so breaks it down, the SBI acronym. So first, the situation. So when we're approaching someone, first, we want to be specific, we want to provide context and avoid words like always and never. And I certainly find with my partner, I can easily slip into that pattern of like, oh, you always do this or you never do this. And it's really not very helpful. And we want to try and stay present in the moment and notice in that moment what is the behavior that we're commenting on. And so when we think about the B, then we're thinking about commenting only on our observations, in that present moment. We're avoiding assumptions and judgments, and we're focusing on the behavior, not the person. So we're not saying something like, you're so lazy, you're not doing this. We're commenting on, oh, I noticed you didn't get around to doing this. Like, let's talk about it. I for impact. So again, describing that impact of the behavior on you, that kind of I statement model, and we'll have some examples in just a moment. But again, rather than focusing on the person whose behavior you don't like or you're concerned about, you're focusing on the impact that behavior has had on you, and trying to just keep focused on ourselves, not clumping other people into that feedback. And then I've added a fourth letter to the SBI model, another I, to inquire or invite. So to kind of end with a question, invite that person to engage in the conversation. So it's not just a statement that people might feel a bit defensive or struggle with how to move forward with. But you're actually asking a question. You're inviting them to join this and to collaborate to find a solution. So Denise, I see you said that the impact versus intention resonates with you. Yeah, it can be a really helpful, just quick pause to think about that. I'm so glad that that resonates with you. So again, jump in if there's any questions or comments about this, but we did put together a few examples of how you might incorporate elements of that SBI model with I statements. And if any of you have kids, you know, I statements are something that are taught in, I think, even preschool, elementary school. Back when I was young, we didn't learn things like I statements, and I sure wish we did, because it is a very simple way to engage in conversation when we're feeling hurt or we're feeling confused by someone's behavior. So maybe just give you a moment to read through the first two and a little break from my voice. And then maybe I'll read the last one in just about 30 seconds. Okay, so you'll notice in those first two, there are those big blanket statements using words like never for the you statement side, like you never do this. You are such a micromanager. So in that you are such a micromanager, we're really accusing the person, not observing the behavior. So kind of thinking about that SBI model, avoiding the sweeping statements, the always, the nevers, focusing on the behavior, being specific rather than general. And you can see in the I statements how we try and reflect more of that impact piece, focusing on the specific behavior and inviting a conversation to engage. So you can see how much more likely, say we are the ones responding to these statements, how much more likely we would be to engage, and how much easier it would be to manage our defensive response in those I statement approaches versus the you statements that feel much more accusatory. So the third example, you know, specific to the holidays, I think the first two could be any time of the year, pandemic or no pandemic. But that last one, you know, you're being totally selfish, asking us to visit for Christmas. We are in a pandemic. So I imagine there may be some of these kind of conversations happening in your lives, and the I statement to show a different approach might be, I know how important it is for you to have the family together at Christmas. I'm not feeling comfortable with the risk involved in getting together, and I'm hoping we can work together to find other ways to connect and celebrate this year from a safe distance. So that invitation to have a conversation, like let's brainstorm together, let's figure this out, but also acknowledging you're not feeling comfortable, that I statement piece, and reflecting how disappointing it is for the other person. No worries, Gloria. Thanks for joining us while you could. Any thoughts, questions, comments?
I was just going to say, Sarah, when I doing relationship studies, counseling, whatnot, you're often taught it's anything that sounds like a generalization is a criticism, and that makes people retract. So if you've used an always or a totally or never, it's really impossible for a person to absolutely the whole time of their existence never do something, or so immediately they shut down because they know they're going to be finding exceptions to exactly what you've said. So as soon as we generalize, we put someone on the defense and they retract, and whatever result we were hoping for is unlikely. So these I statements really are genuine, relational, amazing tools to bring us kind of closer and make us understood. Yeah, I think some of us, especially when we're tired again, the other ones blurt out. It does happen. We can't, and especially when we want to kind of, yeah, quiet people down. Often yeah, the
Yeah.
generalized criticisms come out of us, but yeah, it's just worth knowing about that retraction um, space. People pick up on it without even knowing that they've heard it, the never, the always, those kinds of things. So you've shut them down before they even hear what you've said. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, well said. Thank you, Frances. That's, yeah, some good examples. And I think also a good reminder that, this is again very easy to say when we're feeling grounded and having a non-threatening conversation, but it is very hard to do this. It takes a lot of practice, and none of us are ever going to nail it. And it's never going to be perfect. We're not going to get this 100% of the time because we are human and we are emotional. And we just need to keep trying, right? We adapt. The more we practice it, the more naturally it comes. And I'm such a big believer in those little pauses. um, that there's a great Viktor Frankl quote about how so much of our power lies between stimulus and response. So taking one or two deep breaths, thinking about how can I use some of these tools in my response, just can make such a shift in the way the conversation goes. So I see, great, Victoria, you've been dreading a conversation around some of the holidays, so you'll adapt the I statement. That's awesome. And Amber, you're having some similar conversations about gathering. Yeah, internally feeling the you statements, but trying to make my reasoning about myself and my boundaries. Yeah, that's, well, so beautifully said, Amber, and takes a lot of hard work and practice. Well done. And Denise, hard not to use these. Yeah, it's really hard not to use the you statements in those moments of frustration, right? Really hard. So again, acknowledging that we are going to enter this with a lot of self-compassion. Keep coming back to that, and just trying things, doing the best we can, keep breathing, keep taking care of ourselves, and we know that we'll be able to manage some of these difficult conversations a whole lot better if we are coming from a place of good self-care and self-compassion. The "we are in a pandemic" resonates with me. Yeah. I think at first I wrote "we are in an effing pandemic," and I thought, oh, maybe that's too strong, but I think that's probably how a lot of us might be feeling in one of those moments. So thank you for your comments. So really, really good to hear that some of this is resonating with you. So last point on this, tip number 3 around managing expectations and boundaries, is language really matters. And I think this is just building on these great conversations we've been having in the chat box. But sometimes we get kind of stuck in these ruts, like, oh, I'm trapped at home. Oh, this is so boring, or I'm so angry. This is just like the worst luck ever. And sometimes just reframing and thinking about the language we're using to describe our situation can make again, a shift in how we're feeling. So instead of being trapped at home, maybe we try and think about being safe at home. This next point, are we talking to our loved ones with the same respect as a dear friend or a mentor? And, I like to think that my partner gets some of the best of me, but I absolutely know for sure he gets the worst of me sometimes. And that really resonated with me when I think I heard it on a podcast by Esther Perel, who does a lot of work on relationships. And it stuck with me. So when I am feeling triggered and I'm connecting with family members, I try and think, how would I approach this if I was, speaking to one of my mentors or someone I really respect at work? And how can I show that same respect to the people in my lives who, I have more trouble managing my emotions around, I might be more triggered around? And then, on the flip side, we've talked quite a bit about how we're caring for ourselves, but of course, we want to be offering the same space for other people to be heard too. So, as Frances mentioned earlier on, one of the most wonderful things about this pandemic is that we're all in this together and it's collective and it's built community. And one of the hard things about that is we're all in this together and we're all tired and we're all having our own challenges. And sometimes, we're not sure, do we have the space and capacity to give the love and care we need to for a friend when we're needing it so badly ourselves, or vice versa. But doing what we can to give people the space to share their own emotions, their own fears about this holiday and about this pandemic. So I'm watching the time here. We'll keep moving. We've got two more tips to go. These ones are a little bit shorter. Um, but really focusing on spreading kindness, not COVID, this holiday season. And I've heard that expressed in a few different ways the last couple of weeks, and I really love it. Um, Something I wanted to share, a neighbor who showed such a great kindness to us in the early days of the pandemic. He's an older man named Pete, and he loves to draw. He's a bit of an artist on the side of, I think, his life. And he every morning on his different picture, just a little image on our driveway for my kids. So when we were all in lockdown, every morning they would run out to see what picture Pete had drawn. And he did that for probably 3 or 4 weeks. And oh, it was so much fun. And like I still feel a little bit of emotion when I talk about it, because I thought it was so simple, but such a powerful act of kindness that meant a lot to our family when we were struggling to manage work and childcare and in that lockdown stage. So we've certainly been having conversations in our family about how can we show that kind of kindness this holiday season that's safe in terms of COVID, that shows that we're caring, creating some community engagement. And I'd love to hear from you, what kind of small, big or small, actions can you take to show some kindness this holiday season? And if you're comfortable to write it on the screen, click on the text box or put it in the chat box. Let's share some ideas. I heard from a student yesterday, she's making little mini gingerbread houses, and then wrapping them up in some like tissue or plastic and dropping them off at her neighbors' doors. And I thought, oh, what a beautiful way that also is a bit of a craft and activity and showing some kindness for others.
That's really nice. I love anything with baking, but
I hear ya.
yeah, I'm not going to do a lot of baking because I might just leave it here and eat it all. But I think I'm going to. I have a few kind of elderly friends that are a little bit more locked down, so I'm making sure that I'm going to reach out to them for phone calls, and I'm going to probably. Yeah, just I'm a little low on energy, so I'm going to do some kind things to my immediate family as well and make sure that they have what they need uh, this year. I'm not going to overstretch myself as much as in years past with the extended family, but kind of pull it back a little bit for everybody's energy. I think that feels like a kind thing for me and for them. And the other thing that I wondered about resurrection is the old Christmas cards. Now that we can't visit everybody, that the post and some Christmas cards are a good idea this year. Oh, look at all of these coming.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I got bugged out again briefly, but I think I caught most of what you said, Francis. Thank you. And yeah, it looks like other people are having the same thoughts about cards. I think, oh, how fun is it to get a card in the mail, right? Yeah, I think it's so special. So I love, and handmade cards even more special, and also a fun activity. Support favorite. Yeah, and so someone wrote supporting my favorite charity auction. Oh, so cool. Yeah, there's so many opportunities to give. And Victoria, gonna ask a friend who was allowed to say if we can organize. Oh, nice. So window visits with family members who may be not able to come out of their homes or in assisted living situations. Oh, I've seen some beautiful photos of people having visits, talking on their phones through the windows, and Just seeing each other's faces and smiles can be means so much. So these are beautiful examples. And wreaths for neighbors, yeah, putting some greenery together, some flowers or something. I think these are great ideas. And of course, really good for the mental health of both the giver and the receiver. So helps our own mental health to do these things as long as we're not overdoing it. Good point, Francis. It's also been an overwhelming year and we don't want to put unnecessary expectations on ourselves either. Keep it simple and manageable. Thank you for those great suggestions. So the last tip, and Juan Carlos, I think you mentioned this one earlier in the session, is practicing gratitude. So, the research shows us what huge, beautiful impacts gratitude has on our mental health. And there's some neat studies that actually show within, I think it was about 6 weeks, we can see some changes in the brain from practicing gratitude on a daily basis. So that can really help if you are feeling quite strongly in that fight or flight, high stress zone for a long time, or feeling quite down, maybe low energy, a bit depressed. Practicing gratitude can really help with addressing some of those emotions and low energy. So we've listed some different ways that you might practice gratitude, using a journal, a gratitude jar where everyone, when you think of something you're grateful for, you pop it in the jar, and at the end of the month or year, you review it, with roommates, family, or just on your own. Writing a thank you note to someone, that really aligns with what we just talked about with cards too. What a great time it is to write a little note to someone about how you appreciate them. And again, such huge benefits to both the giver and the receiver. Saying it out loud, yeah, sometimes that is just so wonderful, to say what you're grateful for out loud. Externalize it, shout it loud and clear from the rooftops. Sometimes we might need a little calendar reminder to help us remember to practice gratitude if it's something that's not part of our daily routine, which for a lot of us it isn't. Doing a daily check-in. I had a wonderful colleague who would just pop by my office at some point every day and say, "Hey, Sarah, what are you grateful for today?" And I loved how no matter what, it would just help shift how I was thinking. If I was having a bit of a rough day, thinking of something I was grateful for really helped to shift my mood. Incorporating it with an activity like brushing your teeth or vacuuming, it could be anything. Ideally, some kind of daily routine that we have can be a nice way to remember to do it as well. So if anyone has any thoughts, ways that they like to practice gratitude, please share. We'd love to hear from you. What works for you? If not, we'll keep moving forward just to try and finish as close to on time as we can, but that chat box is still open. So if you feel like popping something in that you're grateful for, or a tip for practicing gratitude, please do. This is something I saw in my Facebook feed. I think it was right around Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving. And it really resonated with me, just as a bit of a reminder to all of us that this holiday, it's okay if we're grieving and we're not grateful. So, we can't force ourselves to show gratitude. Maybe we're just not there, and that's okay. It's okay to choose not to engage with toxic family members. It's okay to choose recovery over tradition. It's okay to have seconds or thirds or some cookies, and nourishing our body isn't bad. And it's okay to opt for self-care over socializing. And since we can't do a lot of socializing this year, even more so, right? Really important. So maybe one of these resonates with you. Maybe you want to have some kind of little mantra or reminder to show yourself that self-compassion, and remind yourself that it's okay to do what you need to do this holiday. So as we wrap up, I think, Francis, did you want to do our second grounding exercise today?
I'll wrap it up with our grounding exercise, and hopefully that puts us right on the 10 o'clock on the dot. So just like at the start, find a comfortable position so you can relax and breathe easily for a few minutes, and start by noticing your breathing and focus on filling the belly when you inhale. And scan your body, focus on your breathing, and scan to see any tension or discomfort. Try to dissolve it with a few of your breaths. And while you continue to breathe, take your mind to your favorite place, a safe and comfortable place, a special place you go to with your family, familiar place, or maybe even an imagined place, a place that you've always wanted to go to. Think about some of the things that you find in this special place. Take a few moments to notice what you see around you. I'm thinking about, I'm thinking about Checkin Lake today. That's what I'll think about. And I like the view. My family have a cabin there. Thinking about the view out to the mountains. You think about what surrounds you. And now notice what you hear. Are you outside? Maybe you can hear water or birds. If you're inside, maybe there's a gentle humming or a tick-tock. What can you hear in your favorite place? And take a moment to think about how this place feels. Is it warm there? Is it cool? What are you sitting on there? Do you need summer clothes to wear? What do they feel like? How does your body feel in this place? Now take a moment to think about the smells and tastes that you find in this place. Maybe there's a smell of grass if you're outdoors. Maybe the smell of barbecue. Maybe you're indoors and thinking about Christmas baking, like me. Take a few moments to just try to be present and safe in this place, noticing all your senses. What makes you feel comfortable and happy? Now, let all these senses and these images wash over you, and think of it as a special gift and a place that you can come to whenever you feel like you want to be relaxed this season. Remember, all you need to do is take a few breaths, and you can think about this place. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're still with us and you want to let us know, how are your stress levels right now? What emoji represents your feelings after this hour? Maybe we've moved the dial a little bit, 0.5 or 0.25 away from those 4s and 3s. Maybe we're feeling relaxed instead of tired now. Someone's feeling great, someone's feeling relaxed, feeling better, feeling a few more happy. And we're having a 2 down there. That's great, grateful. At peace, lovely. That's a great one to be walking into your day feeling peaceful. Yeah. I think I'm down at a 2. I was at a 3 coming in to the session, so I'm down to a 2 as well. Alive. Lovely. Lovely. So this is us. These are our best faces. And the faces that you see on the screen when you make an appointment with us. And you can book online through the counseling website, and you can call us. Though we don't tend to answer the phone, we will try to reply within 24 hours. And there's our email address. But there is the booking system through the Royal Roads website as well that some of you might be familiar with. So anytime you're feeling a little stressed out, a little more 4 and 5 on the dial, feel free to reach out to us. And we can help you with all sorts of things. We talk about everything in the counseling department. Well, thanks, Denise. Sarah, do you have any last words?
No, thank you, Frances. That was a really lovely ending. I feel definitely down to about a 2 as well. And I'm just so grateful to have this time together and be navigating the strange year and the strange holiday with all of you. So thank you for making the time to join. Thank you for your comments. And like Frances said, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions or you'd like to book an appointment to continue some of these conversations or have other things going on in your lives. We're here. The university does close from the afternoon of the 24th until after New Year's. So we won't be available then, but up to then, please don't hesitate to connect, and wish you all a really safe and cozy holiday, however it looks.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to pop off, Sarah, because I have a session now, so I'll speak to you later, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thanks so much, Frances. That was great.
No problem. Bye.
Okay, bye.